My spirit is infinite. I don't waste moments on what's insignificant. Moments move different when you discipline. Silence teach lessons they never mention it. My bloodline needs healing. I'm reaching for magic beyond what's indigenous. Not just the drums or the rituals, but the knowing that live in the sinew and ligaments. I walk slow, but I ride.
Happy Friday, everyone, and welcome back to another round of My Patriot Report Live. I'm the bridge connecting the next generation of federal contractor. I am Ratwan Hill. With me, I have the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Ambassador of Peace, Mr. Walter Cotton III. Mr. Cotton, man, how's it going, man? Happy Friday.
Happy Friday to you too, man. It's going well for me. I've got a short little excursion I've got to make to Chicago tomorrow. My niece had straight A's in her school year, and I promised that I'd take her to Hawaii, not Hawaii, but to Chicago to celebrate. And we're going to get a chance to go to the newly opened Barack Obama museum or library and museum. So I got a big adventure in front of me.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Hope you enjoy that trip to Chi-Town, man. And the Obama Center. I'm pretty sure you'll have some good B-roll footage that is captured from there.
We'll see if we can get you a souvenir, a shirt, a little something.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Now, we've been focusing on this regentrification message because we look at the times we're in right now. It is much needed, probably as much as ever. But on the other side of it is the fact that we also have this immense opportunity because of the shenanigans that are happening, DEI, this gerrymandering, everything. It's created a wide open gap. And, I wanted to have a discussion. So I saw this video, and this gentleman, he was talking about, the black leadership that we have that are successful, And I just found out about this organization, one of these societies a couple of years ago, the Black Boulé, and I did a little bit of research, not too deep, but from what I understand, it was a bunch of brothers who were successful. They were doctors. And because they were centrally lonely at the top, they created a society, an organization where the successful black people could come together and coalesce in a organization. Have you heard of that group? And
Yes, I've all my life heard about the Boulé, and depending on what channel and corner of the world you get the myth and legend about the Boulé from. They're this bigger than life mythical group of figures, down to this clandestine group of people that can help you move a few things if you need to. So yes, I have heard of the Boulé all my life. It's just a community that's hard to nail down.
Well, as you say that, and I laugh because what I think about is this sound like the same as saying like the Illuminati or something, like you go down.
On some levels, it could be represented that way. It's there are a lot of things in the black community that were borrowed, if you will, from the majority community. And so there were a lot of leaders that tried to put systems and procedures in place, and they borrowed those systems and procedures to manage and run their communities from their majority Anglo-Saxon counterparts.
Now, going back to this video, I wanted to, just play a few excerpts from the video because while everything that he brought up was valid, or he brought up a lot of good valid points, I feel as if, and not only him, just a bunch of other podcasts that I watch from, black influencers, it seems like they're all focusing on the symptoms and the roots, and nobody's actually discussing a viable solution pathway. Now, to me, it seems like we're just repeating a cycle of insanity.
And that can be true because you have a lot of pick me ins. I'll just use the in instead of the word that are orchestrating the attention for large swaths, large portions of our community, our population. And to say it, successfully, or should I say succinctly, we have a lot of people out there that are searching for the lane of success while they're being chauffeured by failure. But I remember this video. I remember this. What? Let's see what you got there.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Let me show sound it.
So let's start with the civil rights industrial complex. Jesse Jackson.
I can hear it. It's a little muffled, and so that probably would be a challenge for the audience to hear. Is there a way to plus up the audio, or is there a share audio when you have that option?
Yeah. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well, it didn't show. Let's see here. There we go.
And this is one of the fallacies of going live and doing live TV, right? You have the chance for these kinds of technical issues. Let's see if this gives you the volume you're looking for.
Passed away, and I'm going to be really respectful of what he represents. Jesse Jackson was not.
Now, that one's giving you an echo. So, is there any way to
that had
turn your microphone down?
An international figure built an organization capable of getting corporate executives, politicians, celebrities, and media leaders in the same room. That's history. But respecting history does not require us to suspend accountability. We cannot eulogize the man and bury every legitimate question inside. Jesse Jackson built Rainbow Push, one of the most influential civil rights organizations in the United States of America.
Now, my question was, okay, so we talked about the Boulé. He just mentioned Rainbow Society, which is something.
No, he mentioned the Rainbow Coalition, which was Jesse Jackson's organization. That was his primary operating vehicle, the Rainbow Coalition.
Okay, so my question is, again, now I'm younger, and you lived my life twice and then some. To me, from my vantage point, it seems like we're still really pretty much going through the same thing. So were the organizations actually successful in implementing anything for us from your perspective?
I have a philosophy that says or suggests that we cannot change the problems that were created by the colonizers' strategies, utilizing the colonizers' systems. And so a lot of these groups that you're talking about, whether it's the social media influencers that the young man spoke to in that piece, or it's the religious leaders, or it's the political leaders, these individuals are borrowing directly from the colonizer's system. And as a result of that, they get some of their support. So their obligation to those systems is unnatural. Let me say it that way. And so one of the points that this young man made in this video was somewhat of an indictment of the Divine Nine, where he suggests that the Divine Nine has a deficit in entrepreneurial outcome, therefore a deficit in real wealth generation. He gave the Divine Nine their props for the lawyers and doctors that may have gone through our HBCUs and our educational systems, right, and are now performing in businesses or practices, but they indict the Divine Nine for not having a robust entrepreneurial base that would empower us with the ability to even conceive of Rosewood 2.0. right? To even conceive of Greenwood 2.0. And so there are some real indictments that we as a community have to examine as we look at this finger that we're using to indict the society that's not giving us a level playing field, right? We have to make sure that we haven't exhausted all of these three fingers and we haven't gone through the appropriate analysis of those things that are pointing back at us, right, before we go down this pathway to charging the society, charging the community, charging the ones that, took the deal as being accountable.
Okay, so and my question is, do that make them? Do we need to hold them accountable for I guess you could say, for lack of terms, selling out? Or is it really up to us to have a self-understanding and being able to self-determine? Like, we shouldn't be looking to other people or to the people who already made it out for a hand or hand up or hand out. What are your opinions on that?
I think that there's a lot to be said for God blessing the child that's got his own. And so, not looking at another man's bag and counting another man's wallet. And so from that perspective or point of view, the individual capability of the leader of their personal tribe, family, or whatever to come up with the solutions necessary to economically self-determine for their family requires us not to be looking to an institution, not to be looking to a group for our foundational economic stability. And so I think that we have a need to ask the question, have you done all that you can for self before you start looking to get some assistance from an organization or group? Because in many instances, if you don't have anything to bring to the group, right, you're just going to be a drag. You're just going to be a drain on the sources of the group. And so, although I think that there is a certain accountability for the one whom much is given, right? You've heard that old adage, much is expected. It really depends on the nature of the deal that caused them to get what they signed up for. And if selling you out as a community, right, as this guy points out in several of his examples where we've got civil rights leaders, right, or we've got radio talk show hosts that are or television hosts, right, that are the pick-me-ins, right, that are flashing and blinging while being the Pied Piper that's leading the people down the path of consumerism, right? Mm-hmm. If those are the kinds of deals that they signed up to, man, listen, don't hate on the player, charge it to the game. It's like right now, as it relates to what we're seeing out of this administration. People are pissed at the Trump administration, where I admire the strategic sophistication and the complexity of the strategy that they're implemented. I mean, they identified that there were these loopholes and this porousness in our system, and that they could achieve the level of bully pulpit motivation to do things that other administrations have not done. And to date, you can't argue with success. I mean, you've got a $4 billion outcome. What other president has done that, right, in his first year back in office, right? $4 billion. And America is hushed. Mm-hmm. The war in Iran, which is something that should have been brought to a halt because we shouldn't have even gotten there. And America is hushed, right? And so I think that it's time for our people, yeah, right, the people that wear my social uniform, to get out of the mustard come up with a strategy so that we could create some insulation so that we don't have to worry about these things moving forward. And I think that this market opportunity affords us that opportunity.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Now, while I don't want to focus on the symptoms because we're solution based, right? And he brings up, as I say, he brings up a whole bunch of valid points. We understand that because we have settled law, because we have things like opportunity zones, we have individuals, we have successful individuals who came from our communities that are athletes, entertainers. We see that we can essentially collaborate and make it work for everybody, and everybody's being a meaningful contributor to the movement or to the revitalization of those communities. Now, I look at this as two different things, meaning that you have a group of people who possibly will say that, you know, the system is rigged, it wasn't made for us, you know. Then you have another group of people who made the system work, you know. So should we be looking at all those people, and this gentleman kind of talked about it, should we be looking at all those individuals as sellouts, or should we be looking to come together with them and point their attention to this? Because what if it's just them not knowing?
I think that we need to look at this from the individual perspective, right? You know, people of color often want to lump everyone that is black together in this monolith, right? And we're supposed to act alike, we're supposed to drink alike, we're supposed to think alike, we're supposed to do everything alike, and that's just not the case. You know, at foundationally, we are all human beings. And so if those individuals of color were given a opportunity of advantage and they took that opportunity of advantage, I'm not mad at them. You know, I might not have done what they did, but I'm not mad at them because, you know, they got theirs. What I'm doing is I'm going through the process necessary of individually carving out my lane for myself and my family, and my mission just happens to encompass some stuff that can be of help to people like you, right? So I think that at the end of the day, you know, we need to stop expending so many cycles, you know, counting our brother's pocket and worrying about, you know, how good a job he's doing for the man, and utilize the available assets and resources to carve out our own place, a space for us. And you've got me inspired by this idea of reunification, where, you know, you would utilize Dr. Claude Anderson's Powernomics system to reinvigorate a Rosewood 2.0, a Greenwood 2.0, and so what we need in order to do something like that is not just a dream, right? We don't need a better believable dream. We need a strategy, right? We need an actionable strategy that we can implement that will get us there, that will get the average person that wears our social uniform there. And so, Mr. Hill, I took the time necessary to write that strategy up. And I put that strategy out on the Ability to newsletter this week. And you guys can go take a look at that particular strategy because it provides a end-to-end comprehensive approach to how you would revitalize an economically underserved community. And I would encourage everybody that's within the sound of my voice to take a look at that strategy because unlike other individuals that have the knowledge and wisdom and capability that we have in this situation, we're taking a page out of that radical economic patriotism hymn book. And we're making this information freely available for everyone who has eyes to see and ears to hear. And if you want to become a part of a community of practice that will help you implement this from a coach perspective, we've got the Ability to network. You can go down to the ability2.biz URL you see going along the bottom and sign up for membership in that community of practice. And that's going to give you the first mover's advantage on a whole bunch of stuff that'll change your life forever. So we're not just speaking about it, we're being about it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Now, and we talked about Dr. Claude Anderson, Powernomics framework that he laid out years and years ago. Now, in this time and era where we got an ocean of information coming out, how do people juxtapose what's the right pathway? You have individuals who are promoting, investing, stocks, trading. Then you have people promoting real estate. Then you have individuals promoting whatever crypto. Now for the average person who's hearing all this information, they're like, I understand that I need to generate some type of wealth. How do they juxtapose what's the most advantageous pathway for them, or the pathway that makes the most viable sense, I should say?
That's a customized issue, right? Because it really depends on what you're bringing to the table, right? Mm-hmm. And so, as you know, I just completed a course over at Morgan State University where we had a group of disabled veterans and a group of returning citizens that we were training in the government contracting capability, lot. Well, what we learned was that, some of our returning citizens didn't have the foundational knowledge. They didn't have the foundational understanding necessary to interface with the system. And so the answer to the question that you're asking is really an individualized plan based on the person's capabilities that they're bringing to the party. Like, for example, you're a disabled veteran, graduated high school and all of this good stuff, went through training and in the military. So you've got a skill set, right? You've got a knowledge base that's a little bit greater than the returning citizen who may not have gotten his GED and got caught up in the environment. And even your capability is less than that college graduate, right, that just got laid off by Intuit, right, because they're expanding their AI infrastructure. And so depending on where the individual comes to this particular invitation or what skill set they bring to this invitation would dictate the kind of solution that we would be able to design for them. But at the end of the day, what you need in order to start thinking about any kind of a solution is you've got to have an assailable demand signal, right? You've got to have enough demand out there that is viable, that you can go reach and grab to make your plan make sense. And fortunately, we have that kind of a situation right now where our disabled veterans, specifically our disabled veterans that are MWBEs and SDBs, have a unique point in time opportunity to take advantage of this wealth transfer the federal government has underway. The only thing that's missing is they don't have the know-how, right? And that's a know-how that I've been accused of owning over the years. And what I've done is I've made that know-how accessible. So if you guys go out to that ability2.biz website, look for the first movers advantage option that's out there. Look for the early adopters advantage that's out there, and you'll know it because it's the cheapest one. I urge you aggressively, get involved, get into the community of practice so that we can realize Mr. Hill's dream of having a community that belongs to us. That's ours. A community for us.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Now, you lowered the cost for people to access this course. And this is, in my opinion, this is your way of once again selfishly giving back to the community that you came from, you know, and we're not just the community you came from, but to the veteran population in general. Why do you continue to do it? You know, you're well off, you're good, $150 billion accomplished. Is disabled veterans who are wealthy because of the system and information and the mentorship that they got from you. You know, why do you continue to show love to the veteran community?
You know, it's because I had a friend when I was going through my distracted period, where, you know, I thought it was, you know, every man for himself. You know, you could pull yourself up by your bootstrap, because I was doing well, right? And I thought that the brothers that were out there struggling were struggling because of their own accord. And, you know, I was one of those brothers, right? You know, if you asked me, you know, why my brothers in the hood were struggling, I would give you a long list of, you know, why they're not doing the things that they need to do, blah, 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 blah. And I remember one evening we were leaving campus. It was raining that evening. And, you know, I'm filling Victor's ears, you know, again with my methodology for why black people aren't doing what they need to do. And he stopped me at a drain where there was water rushing down the drain. And he said, "Cotton, do you know what you are?" And I said, "No, what?" And he said, "You're just like that water, right? You're one of the few that slipped through the cracks and you forgot." And it was at that moment that I remembered my nephews. I remembered my nieces. I remembered the younger people that were caught up in my family that didn't have a level playing field. And I realized that old adage that says, "To one whom much is given, much is expected," was something real. And if those people who paid it forward for me hadn't done the things that they did, I wouldn't be standing in the place where I'm standing. So I committed myself to holding the door, to holding the crack open, if you will, in the Red Sea, so that as many people as have eyes to see and ears to hear can make it across. And once I got infected by, you know, watching that service disabled veteran be able to self-determine and pay for his family's service, I was hooked. I remember I was at a Legion event, American Legion event in, I think it was Louisville, that national convention, and I had gone back up to my room to get some things, you know, during the conference, and I got back on the elevator to go back down, and a serviceman in a wheelchair and his wife, his pregnant wife, got on the elevator. I didn't pay any attention to it. And the guy said, "Excuse me, Mr. Cotton." I get a little emotional when I think about it right now. And he said, "It's because of you I'm able to take care of my family. It's because of you, amputated, double amputee, I'm able to provide for my family." And it's those kinds of deliverables that got me wedded to this, you know, relationship that I have with the veteran community. And in point of fact, you know, as I got done with that tour, right, of creating the 3% goal attainment, right, going from 750 to over 19 billion. Once I got done with that mission and I looked up from my Geppetto desk, Rituan, between you and me, I didn't see enough people that wore my social uniform taking advantage of the benefit, the blessing that came through me. And so now I'm on a mission, right, to right that wrong. I'm on a mission to make sure that those people that wear my social uniform, him and her who bore the battle, have an opportunity to take advantage of this enormous tsunami of a wealth transfer that's occurring in our nation right now. If it's not the $36 billion that the federal government has in the form of the Defense Production Act, right? It's that $1.3 trillion that we've uncovered. And when we say that, people look at us like, yeah, but they haven't seen it, right? We need to bring them to the vault and let them see there's $1.3 trillion worth of wealth that is available for transfer. The only thing that's necessary to get it is the know-how. That's the only missing element. In many cases, most of the people that are within the sound of my voice, they own the superpower, right? They own the golden ticket. The thing that they're missing is the know-how. And so we're removing that as a barrier. Right now you can go and jump out to the ability to community of practice and get in where you fit in.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Absolutely. Now, this is a question that I asked you. I believe it. I asked you this privately in one of our private conversations. You know, I asked you in regards to the service disabled veterans that you encountered during your tenure. How many were of more mature age versus how many that you interfaced with that was from my generation? And I asked that question specifically because as me being in the industry and the people I interface with, I realized that most of those people are like, they're older, you know, they're 50s, 60s, 70s. So it doesn't seem like a lot of younger people are engaged. I'm not sure, but it doesn't seem as we don't have too many people from my generation that is actually like engaged in federal contracting. Now, what has been your experience in this space?
That's been my experience too, right? And it might have been a function of the organization that I connected to as we were evangelizing across the country, which happened to be the American Legion, right? The SBA and the American Legion. And so, that might be a reason why the demographic is a little skewed, because we were talking joint venture to Legion members, right? But since then, we've had Desert Storm and we've had, all of these other, events and conflicts that have produced a number of disabled veterans that are your age or younger. And those veterans have an opportunity to take advantage of the VR&E program and that self-employment track. And they have a uber ability to take this golden ticket, which is their superpower, and use it to capture contracts and self-determine for their family. And so I'm inspired by you, to be honest with you, right? You have inspired me because I now see succession, right? I see the opportunity to take the baton of the good work that I've done and put it into the hands of someone who's going to, carry it the next leg of the race, like I'm carrying this baton for the people whose shoulders I'm standing on, like Howard Ross or Dan Gill, right? Frank Anderson, right? And so the opportunity here is for people that are of your generation to get a hold of this message and duplicate the things that the people that have come before them have done. And we're talking thorough digits here. We're talking real business, right? We're talking real contracts. We're not talking ghetto digits, right? Miss Montgomery, who sold her business, Favatech, right, walked away with millions, right? Michelle Anthony, who was crying on a beach in Punta Cana about the fact that her 8A was about to die, $900 million contract with Military Health Services. I could drop these names all day, but what I did yesterday is of no matter to you. What I've done for other people is of no matter to you. I'm pulling a page out of my Janet Jackson album, and I want to talk to you about what I'm doing lately. What I'm doing right now is creating a community of practice where membership matters. And those of you who want to get out of the mustard so you can catch up, roll on over to my LinkedIn page. Read that strategy, because this time for a better believable thing, a dream thing here, is based on an idea I've been percolating for some decades. right? I'm a Dr. King child. I remember when Dr. King passed away, when Dr. King was assassinated. Let's use the right language, right? I think I was about 9 years old then, right? Early latchkey kind of kid, so I had a lot of freedom, and I remember that period. I remember that day being unusual, like more unusual than I had ever seen as a young child. It was almost like there was quiet in the air. Even though the cars were moving, it was almost quiet in the air, and the emotion on the people's face was palpable. It was noticeable, right? And so when we lost one of our giants in the form of Dr. King, right, we lost the opportunity to pursue his dream and got hoodwinked, bamboozled, run amok with things like civil rights and integration and the congressional back caucus, right? And so now I'm of the opinion that what we need is a better believable dream, right? And what a better believable dream is, it's a dream that's predicated on a strategy, a functional strategy that we can implement. And so instead of keeping it to myself and hiding it under a cloth, what I've done is the same thing I've done throughout my entire career. I've made it liberally available to everyone who has eyes to see. So go on out to my LinkedIn site and read the strategy that is going to enable your superpower. It's going to take your superpower and put you in a position where you can be rich.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, Mr. Cotton. That was perfect, guys. And understand that this blueprint is so strategic. If you're a disabled veteran, you have VNRE self-employment. We understand capital is one of the biggest concerns for small businesses. That's already here. You were talking
Eliminated. I'm sorry. It's eliminated, right? The access to capital problem is eliminated. I mean, I've heard some people recently, I'm not going to mention any names, talking about creating, the Black Federal Reserve and stuff like that. But we don't need to create the Black Federal Reserve, right? Because they put the Opportunity Zone program in that big, beautiful bill, which empowers us with the ability to create our own black banks, our own private investment sources that we would be able to deliver against our needs. And I know that this is a season where, black is a little out of vogue, right? Because of DEI, right? It's not constitutional, right? Right? What we're doing is we're reclaiming our heritage. We're reclaiming our rights, right? This land is your land. Think about it. Read between the lines here. This land is my land, from California to the New York mountains. And so what we're doing is we're reclaiming our authority to take back our blocks. And we want to do that one opportunity zone at a time. Pay attention, folks.
Yes, sir. And guys, on that note, I am Ratwan Hill, and that is the Mr. Walter Cotton III. Join us on this revolution. See y'all next week.